Now that we've finished with our pictures of our clutches, manual transmission test 3. In a synchro mesh transmission, the gears slide into and out of adjustment. Now that is not true. You've seen these big ones, these spur gears and these big Lodestar, these big Road Ranger transmissions and all, where the gears actually move in and out of, it's not like a big truck on those. Incidentally, on those kind of big manual transmissions, if you don't have those gears timed, when you put them together, they'll turn a little bit and lock up. You got to actually have them timed. You can't just drop them in there any kind of way. All right. And that one basically, that's a fault C there. Okay, then you got the number of internal shafts in a manual transmission depends on the number of forward speeds. That's faults 2. And we're going to be talking exactly about how manual transmissions work. I got one over there stripped down so we can watch it happen. A large gear ratio multiplies torque. Does a large gear ratio multiply torque? It does, doesn't it? How many of you guys ever rode a bicycle that had more than one speed, as far as a 10-speed bike? Now, if you look at those gears, you can figure out how the transmission works. Ain't that big of a deal. Basically, if you've got a little bitty gear in the front and a big gear in the back, do you got speed or power? Little gear in the front, big gear in the back. You got power or you got speed?
Power.
You got power, because you can turn in this one an awful lot. You can't go very fast, but you can pull and beat the man. Then as you go up to where your drive and your driven are changing sizes, where the drive's getting bigger and the driven's getting smaller, you got more, and that's why you have to shift up. So you start out, and when you get up a little speed, you shift to the next gear, you're going a little faster, but a little less power and all that. Okay, in low gear, the drive gear has fewer teeth than the driven gear. This increases torque and reduces speed to the drive wheels. That's correct, isn't it? You got that? The most torque is needed when the vehicle is moving quickly. You don't need a lot of torque then, do you? Torque is when you're pulling off from the light and dragging a trailer. When the driver shifts the transmission into high gear, engine speed increases. Is that correct? Now wait a minute. Think about what you're saying there. What's it going to do? Think about when you're in high gear, where's your engine speed? Huh? It's low. It's slower, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. The synchronizer sleeve connects the transmission lever to the shift lever. Does it? That's false about that. Cable linkage is the most common type of transmission shift linkage. It basically is more common now than it used to be, but there's, levers and stuff. Like if you get into that Ford Escort out there, which has got a manual transmission, you don't see cables on that one. On Toyotas and stuff, you see cables though, so. Before disassembling a transmission, you should inspect each component for damage and wear. Think about what you're saying. How can you do that if it's still put together? My dad at his shop, people sometimes would bring him a transmission in the back of a pickup truck, a manual transmission out of a bug or whatever. And they say, can you rebuild this transmission? And he said, no. They say, why? And they said, because I got to have it in the car so I can drive it and see what it sounds like and what it's doing. Now, I can't take it apart and see everything that's wrong with it when you take it apart. You just can't, Now, the reason I'm saying that is because gears can look really good and look really smooth and be noisy as all get out. They can look really, really good, and just whine to beat the man. It's just terrible. All right, so the installation process for a transmission is the same as the removal process. I would say that's false because you're going to be taking the bolts out going one way and putting them in going the other, right? Okay, you don't lack much here. Manual transmission does not do what? Does it supply power and torque from the engine to the drivetrain and drive wheel? Does it allow the driver to change the forward or reverse direction of the vehicle? It does, doesn't it? Allow the driver to disconnect the engine from the drivetrain for starting and idling? Or does it provide downshifts automatically? That is wrong. An engine's most efficient speed range is called its... Listen to him. He's been working with a dyno. The transmission case is what? A, made of high carbon steel. B, includes many minute holes to let air through. Locks in the pressure caused by heat expansion. Locates the shaft and bearings in their proper alignment. Let me pause for just a second to say, how many of you guys have ever been out there doing an inspection on a vehicle of some kind and you see it's got a manual transmission and you see a fluid leak? What do you do next? What do you do when you find a fluid leak?
You wipe it up and trace it afterwards.
What?
Run it, see, come back, see.
Well, the first thing I'm going to do is see how much fluid is in that gearbox. I'm going to take that plug out of the side. I'm going to stick my finger in there. If I can't reach it, I'm going to put some fluid in there. The next thing I'm going to do is say, tell the customer, you've got a leak on this transmission. It needs to be fixed, because you're not always going to remember to have it checked. And one day, it's going to run out of juice. And you're going to destroy your input shaft. You're going to destroy the input shaft bearing. And you're probably going to destroy the cluster gear, which always meshes with the input shaft. And if you really don't want $1,200, $1,500 worth of parts that you need, or have to have another transmission, you need to get this leak fixed, because it's not like something, an engine oil leak, you're basically gonna hear some lifters rattling and stuff like that, or hear the timing chain clickety click like Melissa heard the other day. But on the transmission, when you start hearing noise, you probably are gonna be spending some money, right? All right, always make sure. That's like a differential too. If a differential's leaking, you better fix that leak.
So it will be D versus.
Basically, it's yes, D. If a drive gear has 12 teeth and the driven gear has 48 teeth, the ratio is what? How many times does the drive gear turn for each turn of that? 4 to 1. 4 times for each 1 time that the output turns. Number 15, transmission lubricants do not do what?
All have the same viscosity.
Yeah, true.
Some automatic transmissions take 50-weight motor oil. Some automatic transmissions take automatic transmission fluid. Manual transmissions. Some of them take manual transmission fluid. I never understood why they did that. But if you put, and this is really important, let's say that you're working on the transmission in some kind of little Asian car or something, and you say, well, doggone it, we're out of the oil that it's supposed to take, and any oil is better than no oil, so I'm going to put some 140-weight gear lube in there. And what happens then is it clashes gears every doggone time you try to shift. I had that happen to me one time. I took a little Toyota transmission apart and did some work on it, manual transmission, put it back together, put 140 gear oil in it, because that's all I had, and you couldn't hardly drive it. So I had to drain the oil out. Didn't hurt it, but I had to drain the oil out and put right oil in it. And I was like, what a dummy I was. I cost myself some extra work. So anyway, okay, so everybody happy with what you learned today? All right then. I guess we're probably ready to go back out in the shop and do some real work now, right? Good. All right.